Thanks for hosting as always. And yeah, today is Monday. So as Garfield, I am not precisely loving this Monday specifically. Okay, thank you very much, Kate. How are you doing? Thanks. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to my webinar, broadcasting live from Mexico City. This is me myself, Alberto Alvarado. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I strongly suggest you to do so. You go to YouTube and you type this iiivb's trading room channel. To show up, you click to subscribe. And well, yeah, I know, I remember that you told me your weekend was awesome. Mine was not that awesome, but it was a weekend. Today is holiday in Mexico, so the majority of people won't work today, but that doesn't apply to me, of course. The day of the Constitution of Mexico. Well, actually, it was yesterday, Sunday, February 5th, but a celebration, they moved it to the first Monday after. Well, yeah, thank you, I believe. And I say that because when you feel that your constitution actually protects you, you can feel proud of it, or proud of the system, the legal system, not the case of Mexico. So yeah, I believe that how we say it, that words on paper, unfortunately, but it's like a Republican celebration, I believe. But thanks anyways, Karina. And well, I was just considering maybe switching my profile picture with this one. What do you think? Super Mario Bro. In raccoon disguise. It would be great. Oh, come on, Karina. I know that you haven't played with Super Mario 3 because you were, if not a baby, maybe you wouldn't even be born yet. But yeah, this reminds me my adolescence, my yeah, when I was a teenager. So yeah, it was good memories. Oh really? I love that game, Super Mario 3. Actually, it's the only one of the Super Mario that I liked, the 3. I don't know why, but I liked it a lot. I don't know if somebody here played it also. It was very popular, of course. So, well, today we have plenty of things to talk about. Of course, the non-farm payroll number, the reaction of the markets, how is my disaster account in the trader contest account doing. I need to explain some things that happened on Friday that I was not foreseeing, and maybe that will cost me for the next 3-4 weeks of the contest some unfortunate consequences. I will explain you why. In any case, that maybe this information is useful for you. I am going to comment on speculation that I believe now it's not precisely that dark speculation, that hidden speculation, and why the Mexican peso overall is reacting very optimistically, even having this continuation of Donald Trump pushing a lot of the ideas that he promised during the campaign. And well, but for some reason the Mexican peso is getting stronger and stronger, and besides the numbers on Friday, I have my own theory that I will share with you, of course with the reserves of that I have no certainty on that, but well, maybe that could explain a little bit why the markets are reacting in the way they are. Disaster account, yes, in this case it was, I mean, I was in the last contest on January. I was even in a worse position at some moment because I almost got to the 60% of drawdown. In this case, no, I got to the 45. But the thing is that I was stopped out by margin call on Friday with the shortage of the leverage that Dukascopy does every weekend. But it ended up that I believed that applied at the very ending of the trading day at the when New York closed. So I had some trades opened and let them open, and when I was supposedly to come back and close them, they were already closed in a margin call. So it was like, what? And then I knew that the weekend leverage is cut by Dukascopy at 6 p.m. GMT time. I thought it was going to happen at 22 hours, like when the trading account closes. So yeah, that didn't help, but I will review that in any case. That if that hasn't happened to you, well, just to give you a heads up to avoid that happen to you. So let's begin. Here's the trader contest again in Spanish. I just forgot to switch it to English, and you can realize I am in the 354th position with a balance of $59,000, pretty much 41% in drawdown. I was almost close to the 60% in January's contest. So yes, this is not the worst position. I can fix that. That is no problem. As I was explaining the latest webinar, when I was explaining how to play this kind of contest and the trading itself, is to be smart enough, to be long enough in the game, to allow your positions, your trading, your whatever, to start gaining track and gaining profits, and to cover all the losses that maybe you could have initially, etc. So yeah, that is not what it worries the most. Actually, it's another fact. So well, here it is. As you can see, I'm not shy of sharing this because, as I said this last month, I am taking seriously this contest for educational purposes and of course to show off a little bit if I am performing great. But in any case that I don't, actually this could help us as educational purposes, for educational purposes. So I will close this. This is the equity cure, the disaster account. You can see this is due to the margin call, I believe. Yeah, it was for the margin call. Okay, so I am drawdown 40%, ability minus 37, etc. So this is useless at this moment because, of course, for this and the other trading statistics to work, you need to be at least in profit. So yeah, here it's only just to show you how this has happened. How this has happened for educational purposes. So you can see this huge movement to the downside. I will show you why. But of course, to give context, and this is why I've been saying that the real thing I'm interested in is into getting into the Grand Prix 6 months and 12 months and have a good position there. Because this is my 6-month performance. Okay. So if you see this huge drawdown of my account, actually when you put it in context, the 6 months before doesn't look like that disastrous, right? This looks actually acceptable. Okay. So as you can see in the 6 months, I'm in 58%. So here, at least in the 6 months, I am already ranked in the 6-month Grand Prix competition. I don't know what place I have. But the thing is that, as I've been saying, when you become a trader, it's a long-term marathon. It's not about gaining. You can even have a disastrous month, but you need to manage to be able to trade another day, another month. So even if you have a terrible month, but you consistently can revert that with time, well, you can call yourself a trader. And in this case is what I was looking for. First of all, taking seriously the contest, putting the 6-month statistics in profit. So this is something I could live with. Okay, so with an average drawdown of 58% and medium profitability of 64%. This is the yearly the yearly one, the most complicated one for me to overcome, because of you can see during all these months that I entered the competition, and I didn't take this trading contest seriously. Of course, the consequences were here. And well, this was the latest performance, the January trading contest. So I put this 12-month in profit. So as you can see, even after having this 40% of drawdown this month, I am pretty much in profit. So this is exactly the things that you need to start focusing on, not in a single month performance. Not to say if you lose money one day. Of course, if you lose money one day, it's completely irrelevant. As long as you do it with money management, you shouldn't be sweating bullets because of that. Even if you lose a week, or even if you lose a month, when you look back and push you to make a statistics and to measure your performance in a 6 to 12 month basis, is where the real deal is. If you're doing okay there, well, if you have a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, well, that usually needs shouldn't be good enough just to spoil all your profits of the latest 6 or 12 months. Of course, if that happens, it's because you're doing something wrong. So yeah, when you look back and you say, okay, here in the yearly statistics, well, I'm in profit. That is what I really looking for. I could even lose the 100% of this account, and I would be even in profit here. So this is the ultimate goal for me. That doesn't mean that my intentions are to lose it all in this account, of course not. But being able to put your performance in context is something that will give you the reference that you need if you actually need to switch or not something. So I will close this. Well, you can see the average drawdown is 70%. I need to be below 60% in order to be able to be ranked in the yearly, in the Grand Prix of how they call it, Trader of the Year. So yeah, it will take me a while to put this into the 60%. Another. Well, I believe that I will start explaining the reasons why this margin calls really hit me badly. Just as an example, well, here it is not observable, but here just when I checked the trade feed, when I more or less came back, I believe, at what was 20 hours GMT time during the New York session, just to check my trades, because I knew that the NOFA payroll number, etc., should have had a I should be holding losses in my trades, okay? But well, my idea was to close maybe one trade in losses. I had, if I'm not wrong, I had 4 positions, one in Mexican peso. That trade was closed in the stop loss that I put at it was 20.4, I believe. Yeah, 20.4. It was closed at that level. So that is not the one that I'm talking about, but all the others, I was thinking, okay, I will close the euro pound trade, for example, this one, because I was in my mind trying to see how to close and what trade to close in order to avoid the margin call. But since I couldn't do it before it was done at 18-hour GMT time, all my positions were closed at the exact same time. So as you can see here, my euro pound trade was closed at -30. Okay, I open it here and it went against me. Okay, and it was. And this is my euro trade that I opened here, the short trade, and it was closed here. So yeah, maybe if I had the chance, if I had the chance to choose whether to close and what and which one to close it, etc., maybe I wouldn't be in this situation. But this is not exactly what worries me. Second, because I need to take another screenshot. Give me a second. Is this thing of opening and closing all your trades with conditional orders? When you have a margin call, that is not the case. They are considered that they were closed manually, and that will have a consequence at the very end. Let me take the screenshot. Give me a second because this gets really slow. And I don't know why I cannot take the picture. Well, the things that I will just let you know. In my statistics, I have 59% of my trades conducted with conditional orders. Of course, if I follow the competition and I continue doing all with conditional orders, maybe I will get to the 75, 80, 85%, I don't know, of conditional trades open, trades open with conditional orders. But as you have seen during the competition, it's really tough to get into a decent position when you're not doing that 100% of the times. So maybe this will have a long-term effect in this month's competition. So we need to wait and see. Of course, my priority now is to put the account into break-even at least. And at least to, I would tell you, I would be happy just to maybe have 50% of profit or 70% of profit at the end of the month. Why? Because that will help me with my performance in the 6-month and 12-month Grand Prix contest. That is my ultimate objective. But of course, I would like to mimic more or less the same results last month that I was in the 15th position. I don't know my very final position. Nobody will know the final positions until I believe 2 weeks. But more or less is my final position. So I was wondering maybe to mimic that 15th place, 20th, something like that, maybe even the top 10. But after having this margin call, overall, because this changes the statistics on the conditional order stuff, well, I would see it very difficult to even get to the 20s, but let's see. Let's review my post during the weekend. Today is Monday, so what we can expect is that maybe we will continue having the latest effects after non-farm payroll number, because something interesting, very interesting happened on Friday. Something that really surprised the markets, and I believe it should be one hidden reason for that happening. Overall, because of the behavior of the Mexican peso. But first of all, let's review what I posted after non-farm payroll number. And here it says, United States dollar was punished by the markets despite a solid, stronger than expected non-farm payroll number. I was calling here during the webinars that I was expecting a stronger non-farm payroll number. But the reaction was the complete opposite. I mean, it was not bullish for the dollar, and here is why. Due to the fact that the salary, the United States dollar was punished, despite of this non-farm payroll number, due to the fact that the salaries, the United States average hourly earning performance disappointed. This may indicate Fed won't adopt an aggressive approach in the near future regarding to rate hikes. This is pretty much why the markets, even having this stronger non-farm payroll number, reacted bearishly on the dollar. But it was like not making that much sense for some analysts. I mean, for some analysts, this was like odd reaction of the markets, because apparently we have had this in the past, even in worse position, in a worse situation, and the markets didn't react this way. I am not sure of that because I am not that follower of the fundamentals. I only follow the current fundamentals just to adapt my trades, etc. If I can tell you this, if my trades haven't been closed by this margin call, maybe I would have let them run this day today, because I am not precisely very sure that the dollar weakness will continue. I'm not sure of that. Okay, but I will let you know what I think about it in some minutes. Well, here I made a mistake while I was typing it. I put the only major exception was the United States dollar Mexican peso. Of course, this was no exception because the dollar actually lost territory and the Mexican peso gained territory. So that this was a mistake of post. The Mexican peso gained territory mostly due to the fact that Mexican gross fixed investment year over year plus 2.8% was way better than last month's, that it was actually in the negative, minus 0.9%. Overall, considering that this is at least so far showing a no panic mode, eager to run away from Mexico, influenced by POTUS pressures on NAFTA. So even after having Donald Trump pushing hard the idea of renegotiating or even canceling NAFTA, etc., apparently the money is not really running away desperately from Mexico. So that is a good thing. So that helped a lot the Mexican peso to continue strengthening. But this is very awkward because actually the market, the Mexican peso is behaving like if the market knows something that we don't know. That's it, very suspicious because, I mean, this is good data. But I was not expecting this kind of a strengthening in the Mexican peso because it doesn't make any sense. We'll continue with that. On Saturday, I was reviewing the New Zealand dollar, United States dollar weekly outlook. As you can see here, we have a channel down in the 1 week. So this is no noise. This is the 1 week chart, and we have this descending channel being broken for the last 2 weeks. So here I say that this pattern seems to be broken to the upside during these last 2 weeks. This plus all intraday and macro relevant time frames plus the direction being clear and strengthening, this move makes it challenging to defy the current bullish trend. So watch out. If you in any case want to trade the New Zealand dollar, even maybe if you have a recovery of the dollar in other, like the euro dollar, for example, maybe you won't see that happening in that same measure in the New Zealand dollar. Because apparently, if I'm not wrong, we just have a very good data about the Australian economy. I'm not sure if it was that positive, but that of course helps the New Zealand economy. And seeing this, that this is a weekly pattern, we could actually expect this movement to continue because we have during 2 weeks, this pattern being broken to the upside. So, and besides, in December 11th, if you want to check it in your own chart packages, in December 11th, if you go to the weekly, you will see an engulfing bearish pattern, candlestick pattern, that was convincingly broken. This is it. This candle, and this red to the downside. So as you can see, we have had 2 weeks denying that pattern completely. So even though this pattern is not precisely the best quality one, because you should expect that these candlestick patterns appear at the top or at the bottom of a movement, not here, but it's a reference. When you add up this to this breakout and to the fundamentals, it makes sense, right? So I put here at the last line, the bearish risks are enhanced only by the New Zealand futures, showing an expectation to the downside. Of course, it's not that easy to use the futures market to detect the potential movements. That is not the way it works, but it's again only a reference. The futures markets were showing a slight weakness according to the current FX spot value. But this is the only reason maybe somebody could decide to short it. And that is why I put it here. You will always have a reason to go long or to go short. You will always find a reason. You need to be very selective on which ones you will ignore and which ones you won't. Okay. So in this case, if you have the weekly pattern being broken to the upside, a candlestick pattern of a weekly in the weekly chart being denied, a breakout during 2 weeks, and all the intraday and major technicals pointing to the upside. I mean, you don't need to be a genius to see that during 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is the beginning of the 7th week. We have had a very, very good performance in the New Zealand dollar. Okay, actually, it's the best performing streak, weekly streak, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. But of course, look at these candles. These are way more solid, much more steady. So yeah, if anybody wants to short this, because maybe they don't like to trade the weekly charts. Maybe somebody here only trades the intraday, and maybe you detect a bearish opportunity in the New Zealand dollar. Okay, you can short it, but you need to always have the context. If you're shorting something that it's everything and the fundamental overall is pointing that this could continue going up, you need to be very careful on your stop losses and not being that greedy maybe in your take profit targets if you're shorting this kiwi. Okay, just as I explained before during other moments, the reason of this for me to post these things in the traders blog is to give out what I believe are the most relevant aspects for decision making. For the ones that will short this because they see maybe an opportunity in the 5-minute chart, it's always necessary that you know that at the very symptoms of your bearish trade, at the very symptoms that it could be failing, the best thing is to close it, because you know that you don't have the major trend and the major fundamentals in your side. And for the ones that like maybe a longer view on your trades, and if you decide to go long here, you know exactly what aspects to watch. For example, if you see that this is broken to the upside, we could have a continuation up to here, for example, to this 0.75. But of course, you could have a retracement here, and then maybe the market jumping again. So we need to consider all this. No matter if you are long or short in this, you need to consider all this information. And some hours ago, I posted this. When the market's open, we have some comments here. Oh. Katerina was saying hello to David, but I don't see David here. Ah, you mean Dave Past 90. Okay, good morning, Dave Past. The first time I see you here. Welcome. So this is my Sundays at the Asian session opening. A new weekly pattern showed up. So this is why I call that update. A newly broadening rising wedge. Again, a rising wedge usually indicates a strengthening to the upside. So this is another aspect that piles up supporting a bullish bias. A newly broadening rising wedge in the weekly is apparently confirming my latest post on the very dangerous attempt of defying the recent bullish trend in this pair. At this week's opening, there were no relevant gaps that could indicate a hesitation in the United States dollar bearish sentiment across the board. Today in the webinar, I will comment on an alternative explanation for this weakness that has nothing to do with the recent Friday's USD fundamentals, but could be boosting it. Yeah. yes, Karen, I just noticed that this is another David Pass. So I really don't believe that the dollar weakness after the non-farm payroll number having this kind of very good non-farm payroll number could be uh, outperformed by the bad data of the hourly wages in the United States. I really don't find like this is the could justify this kind of movement. That is why only watching those news, I wouldn't be surprised to see that maybe this week we could see the opposite effect. But since I've been watching the Mexican peso that is the most sensitive to all the things that are happening in the United States because of obvious reasons, I am seeing an unexplainable strengthening of the Mexican peso. I said since the very beginning that Donald Trump wasn't swearing as president, and I said that in a webinar, that I believe that the reasons for having such an aggressive speech at that moment is because he felt isolated. Remember that I told you that 1 hour before the swearing, a Republican Party important figure said something like the president needs to understand that it's not that easy maybe to affect the complete economy of the country. The North American bloc is integrated, and he needs to understand that. And from that moment on, no matter what Donald Trump said, it's like if the markets ignored that speech. So here are the first evidences that actually, apparently, it is true what I said. The other powers in the United States, and I mean this Supreme, well, I always forget how to say that in English. It's not the Congress, it's not the executive, it's the other one. Ruling out this immigration ban that he signed as an executive act. And then this guy calling a judge like a supposed judge, and then appealing, and then we just have the confirmation that this instance denied this appeal to restore this immigration ban. So this guy will go directly to the Supreme Court. What I do believe that will happen there is this thing. Apparently the people that know the laws in the United States consider this anti-constitutional. Regardless of what this guy thinks and says, because he will say that the establishment is the one not wanting these changes, etc. But the problem is that the world is much more complex than one single person believes. A democracy is built precisely with those counterweights. And this assures that the laws are the ones that prevail at the very end. Because if we have a country where somebody can say and do things just because he believes that are the best, even if it goes against the Constitution, then we're not talking about a democracy. We're talking about a cult to a personality, a presidentialism, dictatorship, whatever you want to call it, like during a lot of time that happened in Venezuela, for example, or in Mexico, that are simulated democracies. Yeah, I could call the democracy in Mexico like a simulated one, because now you have forces that are saying yes to everything to the president, including the Supreme Court. So you don't want to see that in the supposed most powerful country and the reference of democracy in the world. And apparently those counterweights are working. So what I believe, there are some gossip in the markets, and maybe this guy could be even impeached. I see that very difficult. As impeaching Donald Trump and removing him, I see it very difficult. But I've been saying here, he is going to face a reality that he's not used to and that he doesn't know how to handle. That is when somebody tells him no. And this is the very first time he will be facing, maybe in his life, with serious stuff and not being able to do whatever he wants. So what I believe is that the markets are confirming what they heard 1 hour before Donald Trump swearing as president by this Republican Party important figure, and they read that information that way. I read that information like they are not just going to vote to support all the nonsense by Donald Trump just because they are from the Republican Party. And now the things are happening that way. So this is what in the bottom line, what I believe is that maybe for these next 2 years, Donald Trump will be very exhausted fighting at the different forces in the Congress or in the Supreme Court to get things done the way he wants. I believe that is why the markets are pretty much considering that all the bad stuff that maybe could hurt the economy of the United States badly, at least at the beginning, are not going to be in store that easily. For example, now he needs to start fighting this war against the Supreme Court, while he wants NAFTA to be renegotiated. As far as I am informed, he can actually withdraw United States by an executive act from NAFTA with one single document. But that can be reverted by the Congress or the Supreme Court. I don't know if this information is completely accurate, but I remember reading something like that in some months ago. But the bottom idea is that it won't be just the way he wants it. Another thing, the person that this Donald Trump wants, if I'm not wrong, for the education ministry, is a woman. And even some Republicans are not supporting this woman for that position. So it's happening. What the market saw in that speech 1 hour before is actually happening. The first and very resistance will start coming even from the Republican Party. That is the ultimate explanation why I believe that the markets are taking like a breath, like taking a break of all this fear and uncertainty that was surrounding Donald Trump's presidency at the very beginning, since he was elected, And gradually, apparently, it's being clearer and clearer that, the equilibriums in the United States are still working. This was not going to become like when Hugo Chavez came into Venezuela, that just because the ruling party was majority everywhere in Venezuela, nobody said no to Hugo Chavez. Here, even having maybe a majority of the Republican Party, he will face resistance. That could help us overall in this case of the New Zealand dollar. In any case that you want to short it, be very careful, because we had just this weekly pattern broken. If this reading of this information is accurate, I believe that the best performer in the next 2 months is going to be the Kiwi, because I'm not watching maybe other currencies, all the currencies in the world, but it's like the most attractive. In any case, this is real. This and maybe the Australian dollar are going to be the best performers for the next month or 2 months, bullishly. You need to do your own analysis to get your own conclusions. But in any case that you want to short this, be careful. Just be double careful. Because the markets, if they are reacting, because you can see the New Zealand dollar was not breaking this weekly chart pattern yesterday on Friday. No, it's the second week. I'm going to show you something. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for the heads up. Well, I wanted to show you all this. This is a trade that I open in my Trader Contest account now to try to overcome the margin call losses. Because all this reasoning, I am considering that it should not be good enough information, this hourly wages in the United States, to counterweight uh, this dollar bearishness. I am most inclined to believe that this dollar bearishness is due to the fact that the markets are considering that things are going to stay pretty much the same for a long time. So the markets maybe will start getting more risk on, in a more risk on mode. That means buying things like Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. Let's remember this. After Donald Trump getting into presidency, a lot of millionaires are moving to New Zealand. That means investment in New Zealand. So this is like the collateral benefits for New Zealand of having Donald Trump elected. For diverse reasons, including tensions between Russia and the United States, a lot of millionaires are moving from the United States to New Zealand. That could explain this movement. That is why I believe that the next big opportunity will be there. If that is true, that justifies and explains why during 2 weeks this weekly pattern has been broken. Following that logic and understanding that this movement that I am speculating is not a short-term movement, it's a very long-term one. With all the things the way they are aligning, I wouldn't be surprised to see at the year end of this year the best performer, the New Zealand dollar. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Because of these reasons, having Australian economy benefiting the New Zealand one, and having a lot of American dollars, millionaires living in New Zealand, investing in New Zealand. So while I open this trade here, and as I've been explaining during other webinars, using chartist patterns to detect your stop losses, etc., we have here a broadening rising wedge. So I am putting my stop loss just below. There is no need to put a huge, super wide stop loss here overall, because this is the hourly chart. This is the hourly chart. And my take profit target is currently at 0.74 because of this. I could even expect this trade to go to the 0.75. But again, trading shows you that 80% of the times it is way smarter to take half of your profits at the first take profit target and not betting for a home run. Because home runs only happen 20% of the times or less. Okay, thanks, Karina. Yes, I suppose so. So, well, this is how I'm going to play all this explanation of the New Zealand thing. So this hopefully this could help you to get to your very own conclusions. And well, I believe that it's time to call it a webinar. I would like to thank Karina, of course, for hosting, recording, listening, and letting me know this thing of the microphone. All the guests, of course, Rocas, thanks for showing up. Okay, what do you think about Slim, this Mexican billionaire? Well, if you want, I could continue answering next webinar, but bottom line, well, I believe he's one of the most benefited of two things in Mexico. When the NAFTA agreement started, this guy was very close to the president at that time. Of course, that was very beneficial for him, and was one of the benefited people from the NAFTA agreement. I don't know exactly what you mean on this latest press conference that he gave, but what I do believe is that even if he was close to the president in turn at that moment, turning maybe an enterprise of $300 or $400 million into a fortune of, I believe it's $40,000 million or $40 billion, something like that. You need to know exactly what you're doing. So that's what I believe. This is a kind of billionaire that when he gave this press conference 2 weeks ago, I thought that the investors were going to listen way more this guy than Donald Trump, because this guy has a fortune 10 times Donald Trump's. So when somebody really wants to listen to somebody's advice in the financial field, in the capitalism field, listening to Carlos Slim is listening to one of the fourth richest people in the world. And that is what I believe. I believe that a lot of services that he offers in Mexico were way overvalued. And that is one of the reasons why he got that rich. But well, that's another thing. Again, I don't know exactly what you meant with that. But what I believe is that this guy, after that conference, really gave some direction to the markets. Because I believe that all the billionaires, the ones that really outperformed Donald Trump during these latest 30 years, no, 20, 15 years, overall after 2008 crisis, these guys really outperform Donald Trump. They are all converging into the idea that a lot of the things that Donald Trump wants to establish are against the benefit of the United States. And apparently, it's like a consensus growing. So yeah, it's good to know that at least Mexico has a billionaire that could work as a proxy against Donald Trump's economic policies against Mexico. But if you'd like, we could continue discussing this next webinar tomorrow. Maybe if you would like to know something very specific, just let me know. So I would like to thank everybody. Thanks, guest 18, for the question. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, David. Thanks, Rocas. Thanks, Katarina. And remember that I expect you tomorrow at the same time, same place. Remember to trade safe, be safe, and bye-bye.